Hello everyone, I'm Will Brown and welcome to the WP Quickies series, bite-sized WordPress tips and tricks in 30 minutes or less. Today, I'm going to be looking at how to get Google Fonts working on your WordPress website with code and themes and plugins. So this topic was suggested by our regular viewee, Joey J. So thanks for that, Joey. And thanks for taking the time to join me this Sydney afternoon. Welcome to those overseas and those watching on replay. So this is actually WP Quickies episode number 28, and it's the last official quickie for 2020. So next week, we'll be doing just a little Zoom hangout with myself, just a little Christmas hangout. And then I'll start the quickies up again next year in January sometime. Okay, before we start, just make sure if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the bell just to be notified when I'm online again. And if you're on Facebook, just give us a big like. And thank you all guys for joining us. So we've got Jean, J&A Baron, Sue, hello from Oregon. Alan, hi Alan, and Alex, hello Alex, and Morris as well. And thanks to all those guys for joining me and for taking the time. For the last 20 quickies, oh, you're welcome. I've enjoyed doing them. It's been great just to keep in touch with the community as well. You know, with the COVID, obviously all the physical meetups were shut down, which was very sad. So hopefully we'll get to start them up at some point next year. So I'm in talks with a couple of venues and the people in charge. I'm just going to see if we can get those physical meetups going again next year. But let's get going with today's. This one is all about fonts, and we'll get to Google Fonts in a minute. I just wanted to do a little bit of an introduction as to different types of fonts. There's basically 5 different types of fonts. They're not all covered in this graph. I didn't have time to do a graphic for each of those. The first one is a serif font. Now, the serif font are the most classical, original fonts. They're named after little feet at the top and the bottom. The kind of curly bits there. And they're basically go-to logos for print copy. They're generally considered to be probably the most trusted and liked font on the planet. Our eyes, our human eyes, love them, from everything from like short titles to long pages of text. So if you've got a website, then the body copy or the main copy of your website probably look towards implementing that with a serif type font. Now, there is another serif type font. It's called a Slab serif font. It's the same style. It's got the little hooks that come in the bottom and the top. But these ones are big and chunky. So they're quite impressive. The Slab almost kind of bring kind of a vintage vibe to your design. We've got some slabs here in here. So you can see like they're really big, they're chunky, they're impressive, and they work incredibly well for any type of brand, but especially those for outdoor and arty design. So they have this kind of vibe of being outdoors and sporty and active and kind of in-your-face type fonts. So Slab serif fonts, good for those. The next one is sans serif font. So sans serif fonts, and they lack those little feet on the bottom. So they'll be a flat on the top and the bottom, and they're probably considered the most efficient and clean and modern choice. And they also have a really good readable range. So they can be large, they can be small. So they're also good for body copy, but as well as logos and headlines as well. So they're basically like a general type, all-rounder, very good type of font, the sans serif fonts. So 2 fonts left. Second one, penultimate one, is a script font. Now, scripts are those that kind of mimic your cursive handwriting. Most are kind of, in maybe about 10 years ago, if you scroll down Windows or Mac with all the different fonts, you see all the script, and they're pretty much illegible. They're all kind of spin curves and everything everywhere. But over the last few years, we've kind of got more into something called casual scripts, and they have less curvature, they have less spin, and they're more readable. And they really do work well with anything kind of more casual, a more kind of homespun feel to it, including logos, posters, and pamphlets as well. So last one I want to cover, last type of font, are handwritten fonts. So they're kind of different from the casual scripts. Handwritten fonts, they're difficult to find maybe about 10 years ago. But handwritten fonts, they often lack the structure and definition that you find in a font set. So, you know, if you look like a font set, the A, the B, the C, they've all got a certain style to them. Well, the handwritten fonts, they are big, they're bold, they're chunky. It's a type of fonts you see on a book cover or a logo. You know, they don't sit the same height. They're all different. They kind of fit in. Maybe think about the 1950s B movies. You know, Attack from Mars, that type of stuff. Those are handwritten fonts. So you won't find them as a typeset. You'll more have to probably go to a graphic designer or something for them. But really impressive, really big, really unique as well. So those are the 5 types of fonts: serif fonts, slab serif fonts, sans serif fonts, script fonts, and handwritten fonts. I just wanted to do a little bit of intro because we're talking about fonts today, so do a little bit different. So, okay, let's go on to the main topic. So, unless you have been living under a rock for the past 10 years, you've probably already been using the free fonts available at Google Fonts. I've got some links throughout this presentation. I'll drop them in the comments, but I'll also put all the links into the comments below the video on YouTube and Facebook, so you can get to them afterwards as well. So Google Fonts, they have a collection of, now it is 1,020 free fonts that are licensed under the free or Libre, which means free software. And that basically means that you're free to use them anywhere you want to. You don't have to attribute copyright or anything to them. They're free for you to use without having to pay at all. So there's many ways to get Google Fonts into your website, and we're going to have a look at some of those right now. Okay, so using themes and page builders. So some of the more popular themes include Google Fonts in their settings automatically. Here's a picture of, I'll just make it a bit bigger. Here's a picture of the Astra theme and its typography settings in the WordPress Customize. And you can see here, they've got some of the default system fonts, Helvetica, Arial, Times, Georgia, Courier, but then you've got the list of Google Fonts down there as well. So if you're already kind of using one of these big themes, big popular themes like Astra, then yeah, you've already got access to Google Fonts. And it's a great way to implement that because you obviously get a lot more extra added stuff with the theme, as well as your Google Fonts as well. So there's Astra, of course. Other popular themes also include Google Fonts are Ocean, WP, and Generate Press as well. So I'll just copy some of those links down below just so you've got those at hand. But you know, I'm sure you guys know of all these themes as well if you guys are kind of go-to WordPress people. But I'll paste the links in there anyway. You can also get Google Fonts into your website by using the most popular page builder plugins. So Elementor Pro, this is the one that I use most often. I'll copy the links in here. Elementor Pro obviously comes with Google Fonts, Beaver Builder as well, and Divi. So all as standard come with Google Fonts embedded in them. So there right away is an easy way of getting Google Fonts into your website. So you choose one of these types of base themes, Astra, Ocean, WP, Generate Press, and or a complementary page builder like Elementor Pro, Beaver Builder, or Divi. Okay, obviously, WordPress has plugins, lots of plugins. There's probably millions of plugins to get Google Fonts. In fact, there are thousands of plugins to use Google Fonts into your website. But here are my favorite 2. So the first one I want to mention, it's not the one that's on the screen here. I'll just post the link here. It's called Fonts Plugin / Google Fonts Typography. So this one, it has 100,000 plus active installations in the WordPress.org repository. And it's simple, it's lightweight, and it's totally free. So obviously heaps of people use that. So that's a good sign because it's got a lot of active users. It's maintained regularly as well. So the code base is kept up to date. Although when you're talking about bringing in Google Fonts, you'll see some of the code later on. It's not that difficult, so there's not a lot to maintain with the plugins themselves. So that's the first one I recommend is the Fonts plugin and Google Fonts. The second one, and the one I quite like, is this one, and I like it for its title and for the features it has as well. So one up on screen is called OMGF. And you think it's like, oh my goodness, fonts, but it's actually hosting your fonts, optimize my Google Fonts. And what this does, what I love this plugin for is it pings the Google Fonts API once, brings down the list of the Google Fonts, and when you choose which ones you like, it actually caches that information on your local site. Now that has two benefits straight off. One is speed. So once those fonts are cached, you're no longer going back to Google Fonts API, an external API, and asking for an update all the time. And secondly, if Google Fonts goes down, it means that your website, isn't going to lose its typography, its look and feel, because you've got those things cached as well. So I love this. It really does speed up your website. It's super simple to use. So if you don't want to use one of the big themes, if you're looking for like a lean theme that doesn't have all these stuff embedded, if you don't want to go with a page builder, if you just like a Gutenberg diehard, then this plugin here is probably one of your best choices for getting those Google Fonts into your WordPress website. Now the free version is great, and it does what it says. It does optimize your Google Fonts. It brings and caches them down. So that's the free version, but this is a freemium model, and it also has a pro version which you can buy. And the pro version comes with different types of features, like you can run a batch script on all of your existing posts and change their, has a look for the fonts, and it will cache them as well. So things like that, have a look at the pro features, but I think the free plugin is just great for just getting basic Google fonts into your WordPress website. Okay, Morris has a question. Would you use a plugin even if using a page builder or theme? No, I wouldn't use them in conjunction because they're doing the same thing. So if you've got a theme that supports Google Fonts, then that's great. If you're using a theme like Astra and a page builder like Elementor Pro, they both have Google Fonts. I'd be looking to go into the theme probably and disable the Google Fonts from there and just use the one in the page builder, because if that's your active area where you're building your pages, you probably want to use that native Google Fonts in there. But certainly you don't want to have Astra bringing its Google Fonts. You don't want to have Elementor Pro bringing its Google Fonts. You don't want to install a plugin bringing its Google Fonts, because you're going to get lots of external requests and probably some conflicts as well. So great question, Morris. Thank you for that. Okay, so lastly, this is going to be a short quickie today. I'm a developer, so unless I'm using Elementor Pro to build a site, I'd always add Google Fonts using code. So this is the lightweight approach, because rather than sending out API calls to Google Fonts every so often to get updated font names and resources, you basically just select the fonts you need, and then you have the option to either link to them directly from the Google APIs, or to download them and use them locally using an @import. So here's some code on the screen, and we'll jump into this a little bit just now. So this is actually Google Fonts. I'm sure you guys have been in there many times, but what I've done here is I have selected the Open Sans font, and I've added 3 flavors. I know it's really difficult to see there because it's quite small, but the 3 flavors I've added there is regular, semi-bold, and bold. And you can see I've just done a zoom on the right-hand side. So once you've grouped together all of your fonts, you get this 2 options, link or import. So link is linking it to the Google API, and import is importing the stuff locally. So if you're using link, you don't need to download anything. If you're using @import, then you'll need to download the actual files to your website. So here we can see the link. It's got all this stuff in here, but really what we're looking for is this bit, which it says link href https://fonts.googleapi.com, blah, 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 and all that stuff at the end until the quote. So here we go. So I've copied that bit of code, and that's the first 2 lines here. So that's the Google code at the top, the link rel and link href, and you can see which bit I'm talking about. So this bit here that says https fonts, that's the bit that you want to copy out of the Google screen, and down below it is the function that you want to paste into your functions.php file. That's your themes functions.php file, and this function here is a function with some code, and then there's an add action at the bottom, which then runs that function. Very simple code. So the function's got a name, and the name ZPD_add_go_fonts is the one that you add with the add action using WP_enqueue scripts, and that's the way to properly load scripts into WordPress, and then you put the function name. And within that function, there's just one line of code. I know it's really long, it's wrapped onto 3 lines, but it's just one line. It's WP_enqueue_style. Okay, because it's a font, we want to be enqueuing a style for that. The first one there is ZPD-Google-fonts. That's its handle, its unique handle. You don't need to really bother about that unless you start linking handles together. But I've given it a unique name. The second parameter is that HTTPS link that we got from the Google Fonts site. And that one here, it links to the Google APIs. And you can see at the end here, it's got a question mark, family equals, and those are the font families that I selected. So it's Open Sans, and there's the 3 different weights there. There's the regular, which is 400, the semi-bold, which is 600, and the 700, which is the bold. And then display equals swap. So that's just Google stuff. And then the last one is false. I don't want to go into that, just stick false. But copy that little bit of code into your functions.php file in your theme, and that will add that Google fonts, that Open Sans fonts into your website. And then you can use CSS, and the link below here, you can see I've got an H1 CSS. I'm now saying font family, Open Sans, and then a backup of sans serifs. And now, because you've got that code loading in, WordPress will then load in those fonts from the Google APIs, and it will understand now what Open Sans is as a font. If you disable that add action and refresh, then anything you have for Open Sans, it'll back to the default sans serif to whichever your Windows or Mac PC uses. So those are 3 bits of code there. The one bit, top bit from Google Fonts. The second bit is the functions to paste into your functions.php. And the last one is a bit of CSS to show you how to then use that. And that's all you need to start bringing in different types of Google Fonts. That's really lean. So this one here is only bringing in Open Sans, but you can do it for as many different types of fonts as your website needs. And it just saves something to go out to Google all the time and, refresh the list and give you that whole list of 1,020 fonts. Okay, so if you don't want to muck around with PHP code, then you can use the other method. So if I go back a couple of slides, can you see on the right-hand side that kind of zoomed in bit? It's got link, and then it's got the other option is @import. So this is where we're going to import stuff locally. Let's see. Okay. This is so if you don't want to muck around with PHP code, you can use the @import CSS command. It's still not doing local fonts. So it's just another method. So if you don't want to use the PHP code, you can actually use just pure CSS for importing those fonts. And there's the code there. So in your styles.css, your theme style.css file, you'd use the statement @import and then the URL, and then you're basically copying that URL from Google Fonts again. So one that says fonts.googleapis.com, then it's got that family, Open Sans, and those 3 weights that I chose. And by doing that, you are then importing all those fonts from the Google API into your WordPress website. And then when you use CSS, it's going to recognize font name or font family as Open Sans. Do that. A caveat here, though, it's more efficient to do the PHP code than it is using the import. Using @import is very, very slow compared with just using the native PHP. So if you don't want to do PHP, that's fine. You can always do @import. But if you can, try and use the PHP code because it's a lot more efficient. Okay, so those 2 different ways of getting the fonts in from the Google Fonts API. It's still an external call to fonts.googleapis.com. If you want to go even faster, then you can start loading your font files locally. So here's the way to do that. So if you want to be able to load them locally, obviously you've got to download the zip file of the Google Fonts from Google Fonts website. So here at the very, very bottom of the big graphic here, you can see it says download fonts. So you download those as a zip file and then zip them up to your website into your folder. Now, I usually put them in something called, obviously, your theme file, and then there's maybe a folder called fonts or asset/font. So in this case, I've just used a folder called fonts in my theme directory. And I have unzipped the font files in there. Most of them, you'll find them as TTF, which is true type font, although there are others like OTF and backup SVGs and things. So, but for this one, I downloaded the Open Sans, the three sizes, the three weights that I needed. So it's a regular, bold, and extra bold. And I upload them to the website, put them in that folder called /fonts, and then I have now gone into my styles .css file. So this is not PHP code. This is again just CSS. And the command I'm using is @fontface, and that allows you to declare a font family. So in here, I'm declaring font families Open Sans, so that the CSS then recognize that name. And then on the next line, there's a source statement, and then that takes the parameters of URL, and then I am specifying the actual HTTP link all the way through from your site, WP content, themes, your theme/fonts, where the files are, and then the file name, and then I'm telling CSS what format type it is as well. So format is true type. So I've done that for those three fonts. Once you've done that and saved, then your WordPress website will be able to recognize what font family is, and it will load in those TTF files and cache them as well. So the CSS will cache that system. Okay, I've done that one. Joey J says, loading locally can be faster. Yes, overall, it's going to be faster. Your browser knows how to cache certain types of files, and font files are one of them. So your browser will cache those files. And it's not going out to the fonts.googleapis.com external link as well. Now, although those websites are pretty fast, they can time out every so often. So if your website is, if your WordPress website is rendering a page with a font on it, if it pings out to fonts.googleapis.com and for whatever reason, that's a bit slow today, then that's going to add seconds onto your page rendering as well. And, Google will notice that. So, so this is a great way. If you want a really lean, neat, fast website that only uses specific Google fonts that you need and doesn't call out externally, then this is the way that you should be going, is to download those fonts onto your website and use CSS to load them in. And your browser will cache them, so you'll get that speed advantage, and it's all local and no external calls. And of course, in this example, I have to say this, obviously you'd rename yoursite.com to whatever domain name your website is on, and also your theme from your theme to whatever your theme folder name is as well, to get that to work for your system. Okay, that's it. A quickie one today. I've answered a couple of questions. If you got any more, then drop them in. But, I think this is a pretty self-explanatory quickie, all about Google Fonts. So there's those different ways of adding them. There's a theme, page builder. You've got your set of plugins, of course. That's like hands-free, no-code option. And then there's a few options there for adding them in with PHP code and with CSS, and with the final option of loading them in manually as well, so you're not doing that external call out to Google every time. Okay, so next week is the last one of 2020. So I'm just going to be hosting a Zoom quickie. So it's not a quickie, just a chat, Zoom chat. Same time, 1 o'clock till 1:30-ish. Very laid back, very informal. Turn up if you like. I don't mind people munching their lunch or even a glass of wine. Probably a little bit too early in the week for wine, but hang around, chat, ask some WordPress stuff, ask some Christmas stuff, ask some personal stuff. Just hang out and socialize together for the end of the year, and we'll look forward to Christmas. Let's see some questions here. I've done that one. Sue asks, can you stop the page builders from loading all the font options and only use the fonts used on your site? Yeah, that's a great question, Sue. I don't think so. Not that I've seen. Certainly not in Elementor Pro. I think it's you either switch it on or off. So it's either all Google fonts or no Google fonts. I'd need to check on that. But yeah, I don't think you can just turn on specific fonts for that. Mr. Mercury did a haircut recently. I did, yeah. Very short back, sides and top. Thanks for noticing. Jean's going to try some local fonts. That's great. John says, thanks for the great prezzo. Yeah, he always munches your lunch. Yeah, yeah. I usually have lunch before I come on as well, so I always check my teeth to make sure there's no greens or stuff sitting in there. And Joey J, thanks for putting in that topic, guys. That was really, really good. John says, I can find any way to do it in Divi. Can't find any way to do it in Divi. Yeah, I don't think so. I think you just switch Google Fonts on, and it's a kind of all or nothing for that. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I just want to do a couple of quick notices before I go. So Linux Conference, I am the speaker wrangler. So one of the co-organizers of Linux Conference Australia. It's a totally online conference, of course. It's set for January 23rd to 25th. So that's over the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I think it is, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one of those. Yeah, so check out the schedule there. I'll just copy it into the link down below. There you go. So LinuxConf, got some really, really great speakers there, some super keynote speakers scheduled up as well. Tickets are super cheap. They are $30 for students or $70 for a hobbyist. Again, it's like a 3-day conference. There's mini comps in there, heaps of really, really good speakers. So if you're into anything that's kind of open source, code, building stuff like that, you know, APIs, all sort of good stuff, join in for a 3-day conference full of great speakers. Also as well, also queuing up for 2021. So please suggest a lunchtime quickie, suggest some topics for me that I can fire off in 2021. There's a link there, there's a link below the video as well. So you can send me some topics, simple Google form. And as well, check out WPAustralia.org for all the WordPress meetups that are happening across Australia, and also on how to join us in Slack. Slack's the online WP Australia Slack community, where we all kind of hang out and don't do any work. We just chat to each other all day. But you can definitely ask your questions there, and you know, just come along, hang out. There's like there's a random channel as well. You can just chat about stuff, business tips and things like that. So thank you again. There's me. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. And thank you very much for your questions and for your time. And I will see you guys in the casual Zoom hangout next week, last one for 2020. Bye, guys.